All right, we're going to start just a little bit into this project. The time-consuming part of selecting, I've already done that, so I have these marching ants around the boundary of what I want to keep from the crocodile. So the steps that you've missed that I did before this were just opening the frog image and then placing the crocodile image in this project. I resized it to be a little bit larger and then rotated it. Just in my opinion, it looks more natural this way. So the size and the rotation won't be the same for everyone. It's just whatever looks good to you. So once you get it placed in here, then you'll want to use a quick select tool or whatever selection tool you choose to use to select the outline of the crocodile. Paying close attention to the teeth and trying not to select any of the background. And now I'm ready to create my mask that's going to hide all the background stuff. So in the layers panel, I'm just going to click on the mask button. So now I have a mask hiding what I don't want to see. Now there's a lot of extra stuff here for the crocodile that doesn't fit the frog. So the next step I'm going to do is just refine that even more and remove some more stuff. So I'm going to use a painting technique on the mask to remove from view anything that I want hidden. So anything that is white in this mask is visible. Anything that is black is hidden. So I'm going to paint using black, and you want to make sure that the actual mask itself is selected because we're going to be painting on the mask. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my brush tool, which was already selected for me. And then the default colors that are loaded in are usually white foreground and a black background. If you want to reset that, like if these are different colors, you would click here to set it to the default colors, white foreground, black background. And then I just want to swap those colors because I want to paint with black. And what you'll be painting with is the foreground color. So you want black to be on top. Alright, now I'm ready to paint, and I'm going to choose a rather large brush and a low hardness so that there's kind of a fuzzy edge to it. This makes it blend in a little bit better. And so with this brush I'm just going to do the areas that are closest to the frog here that I know for sure I'm not going to want. You can see as I paint, like it's fading into the edge a little bit, so you want to get careful not to remove too much, especially around the jaw line there for the crocodile. For that I'm going to use a smaller brush and a harder brush so the edge is a little more crisp. So I'm going to use this brush to go along the edge of the jaw. If you need to, you can zoom in. Before I continue, I'm going to turn the opacity of this layer down. So for the crocodile layer, I'm going to click on where it says opacity and reduce that so I can see through to see the outline of the frog. And then I'm going to zoom into this kind of shoulder area. I don't know if frogs have shoulders, I guess they do. So to zoom in, I'm going to use Control Space to temporarily grab that zoom tool. And I'm going to just remove this part of the crocodile that just doesn't fit the image. Then I'm just going to get a little bit more finer detail around the jawline. So with this method you can remove anything that just kind of doesn't look in place. And because our image was squared off over here, so we just had the head of the crocodile, I'm just going to soften the edge of this using the same brush. I may just increase the softness or the hardness, make it more soft. And I want to retain this detail. The frog has like these black stripes in it, and I think that's going to help me blend the two images together. Actually, I'm going to retain that for now because those are some good kind of crocodile patterns there. So for now, I'm just going to kind of blend in this area. Okay, it's good there. I'm going to turn the opacity back up, and I'm going to zoom out just to see the general shape is looking pretty good. I may want to cut in a little bit more of a shoulder here for this frog, but I could do that later in the mask. So the next thing I want to focus on is trying to get the crocodile color to look more like the frogs. So this is probably the hardest part to get for me, just to try to get the colors to match, because the crocodile is obviously more gray tones than green tones. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a color balance adjustment layer. And what we want to do is, before we start adjusting anything, we're going to create what's called a clipping mask. And what that does is, if I were to adjust this now without that, it's going to adjust both images. So adjustment layers will adjust anything that's underneath them in the layer order. So since our original image of the frog is underneath it, it's going to adjust that as well, so it's not going to help. So before I do that, I want to create what's called a clipping mask, and that will apply it just to the layer below. So I'm going to right click the color balance layer and choose create clipping mask from the menu. And this little down arrow appears, which means it's only going to be applied to the layer directly below it. So now if I make an adjustment, only the crocodile is being adjusted. So right now with this, I'm adjusting the midtones, which are in between light and dark, so the kind of the mid shades, and I can increase the level of green. I'm trying to get close to the frog color. That's my goal. So it's going to be more green, more towards the red, and probably towards the yellow. So getting close, and these are entirely different images and different creatures, so it's going to be hard to match. But overall, I think this is a pretty good adjustment. Now from here, I could go even farther and do some of the darker tones, so the shadows. See if I can't adjust that to look a little bit more natural there. It's a very fine adjustment, if anything. So that's the shadows, and then we can go to the highlights and make some adjustments there, see if we can get even closer. I'm just playing around and watching my screen and seeing if it looks closer to the frog or not. Alright, I'm going to leave it there because that's closer and close enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and just minimize the settings for this adjustment layer. And while I was adjusting that, I'm just going to hide it really quickly, just show you, and focus on the mouth area and the teeth while I hide this. So I'm hiding it, and the mouth area looks more pink and the teeth are more white. And with it on, it adds like a yellowish green overtone. It makes it look unnatural. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to remove the mouth and the teeth from the mask so that they aren't affected by the adjustment layer. So with this mask selected, I'm going to use the same technique that I did over here, and I'm going to paint out the mouth area. So this part is going to be easy. When you get closer to where it should be green, you might want it to take a little bit more time going around so you don't remove the coloring effect to something that should have that green tone to it. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. anything that you do with this technique can be undone. So we're just coloring out of the effect here the areas that should be more pinkish, fleshy colors, and the white teeth. So pretty much all of this can be removed. And remember, the background isn't even a part of our crocodile image. So if you go outside the bounds here, that's fine. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is just check our mask. So if you want to see what you've painted, you can Alt-click your mask. It'll show you what's the black and white version of what you just painted. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down and click on my mask. And here I can see there's a little bit of space here that I didn't color in, that maybe should be colored in. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint that in. That may have needed to be there. Let me just Alt click. Alright, so that area was that right there. So it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to undo what I just did. There we go. So the green is back. So that was intentionally left blank there. So I'm just going to make sure all this is painted. Alright, now we're going to focus on trying to blend these two creatures together. And this is going to be just like a combination of techniques. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to just choose an area to focus on. Right now I have this eyeball here that's staring out at me, so I'm going to focus probably on this area, the forehead and this eyeball. And what I'm going to do is create a new layer. So I'm going to choose layer from the top, scroll down to new, and just click on layer. And we're going to have it be blank, so there's no color. Press OK. This is just a transparent layer, but we're going to use it to put all of our blending stuff on. And to blend, we're going to be using the clone stamp tool. So go ahead and select that, and there's some options up here that look like brush settings, and this acts like a brush, but it's going to be painting with a pattern that you choose. So if you click on this, you'll have the normal size and hardness options. The mode we're going to leave at normal for now. And then the opacity we're going to keep at 100%. Flow at 100%. Aligned. Use same offset for each stroke. We're going to leave that selected for now. And then all layers should be selected. If it's set to current layer, you're going to be sampling just a blank layer, and that's not going to do any good. So you want to sample all layers. So what that does is allows you to sample the frog, which is actually 1, 2, 3 layers below it, or the crocodile, which is 2 layers below it. So if all layers are selected, whatever is visible, you can sample that to select a pattern. And this will all make sense in just a minute. So with this tool selected, I'm going to zoom in to this head portion here. So I'm going to do Control Space to zoom in a little bit. And this tool works, it's a 2-step process. One is selecting the pattern that you want to paint with. So for this, I'm going to kind of reduce my brush size using the bracket keys that's on your keyboard. So the left bracket makes it smaller, right bracket makes it bigger. And I'm going to sample just this area close to the nose, similar to where I'm going to be painting. So I'm going to choose kind of this area here. I'm going to hold the Alt key down. My cursor will turn into a target, like a crosshair. Then I'm going to click one time and then release the Alt key. If I move away, this is the pattern that I'm going to be painting with, and the location is where I clicked. So remember where you click, because once you start painting, your cursor's what you're painting with is going to follow your mouse. So if I click here over the eyeball, one thing you'll notice is the eyeball has disappeared, but where I clicked originally, there's an X there. If I move away, it will follow my mouse. So he just moved. So wherever that X is, that's what you're painting with right now. So it moves away from your original selection. So I just painted with that pattern. Alright, so now I'm going to Alt click again, and let's see, maybe choose something a little bit more drastic looking. I'm just creating kind of this transition here between the frog and the crocodile. I'm going to try to create a transition there, and let's pick maybe this pattern down here. I'm choosing this because when I paint, I'm going to paint down and across to the left. So if I choose here, I have some pattern to use down and to the left. So I'm going to choose here, Alt key click, then I'm going to go up here and start to paint. That did not turn out well at all. So the good thing about that is I can undo it. So I may want to do more of just a point and click technique. So let's find something that's a little bit interesting, but not, that was too much of a pattern there. So I'm just going to click in this area again, the one that I used to cover up the eyeball. And I'm just going to click. Then I'm going to hold the Alt key down again, maybe click right here, and maybe click about right here, click one more time here, then I'm going to zoom out to see how that looks. That looks pretty natural and good there. Alright, I'm going to use that same technique now and just kind of create a transition between the crocodile and the frog. And these scales are really defined here, so I'm going to use these. And I'm going to pull them out into this arm and then maybe include some out here on the elbow. So I'm going to go back to the clone stamp tool. I'm still on my transparent layer. And I'm going to Alt click about right here, and then I'm going to continue to paint this out in this direction. Maybe one more small click here. There we go. And then maybe continue this pattern over here somewhere. Maybe I'll grab this here, just paint a little bit of this here. Alright, there's a blending edge along here, but it doesn't look too bad, especially if I zoom out. Alright, now I want to do a little bit of blending between the head and the back. So what I want to do first is kind of hide some of the crocodile. I'm going to zoom in here. Again, this is all subjective. This is just coming up with ideas off the top of my head. So I'm going to select the mask and remove a little bit more of the crocodile by painting with black. There's this nice little stripe detail right here that I want to retain. So I'm going to remove that from visibility from the crocodile. So I'm going to reduce the size of my brush here, and I'm just going to paint that. And actually, before I do that, I'll reduce the opacity of this layer. Alright, so here we go. This is what I want to retain, is this black stripe detail here from the frog. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the mask, start painting just along that border there. And I might just remove this part of the crocodile too. Yeah, let's just keep that in there. Then I'll go ahead and turn the opacity back up. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see. So far, I'm liking what's going on here, so I'm not going to do much more. Let me go ahead and just grab maybe a couple. I'm actually going to do a little bit more of the crocodile over here to kind of blend it in. So I'm just going to grab this area with the clone stamp tool. Maybe just add some more scales over here. Oh, I'm on the mask. I'm going to go back to the layer and Alt click this. Again. Alt click again. Maybe grab this part here. And then a little bit more here. Alright, so we got some scales going on there. I might want one more little piece right here. Alright, now again, I'm going to go into this blank layer. I just want to view it real quick. So I'm just going to clean up the edge here with my eraser again. It adds kind of this, it's a blending, but it kind of creates a shadow where I don't want it. So I'm just going to kind of clean up the edge of that. And there's this nice little black dot on the frog I want to keep. So I'm just going to make that a little bit more distinct. I could take this a little bit farther if I wanted to, spend some more time on it. I could take some of these crocodile scales and put them back here, or take some of these frog warts and put them up here, kind of blending the two together, but for now this is looking pretty good. Alright, so the environment that this frog is in is, obviously it was not here when the crocodile jaw was not here when this picture was taken, but there probably should be a little shadow down here. So to make this look a little bit more realistic, we're going to add a shadow. To do that, I'm going to select the frog layer, and we're going to use a tool that's called a dodge tool. It looks like a little lollipop, or it looks like a magnifying glass, very similar. The dodge tool adds light. It's like a fake light source to your image. And then the burn tool does the opposite. It adds shadow to your image. So we're going to use the burn tool, and it acts like a paintbrush. We're just going to paint in a shadow here. It's going to take multiple brush strokes to get the shadow in. And you may want to increase, let's see what increasing the exposure does. makes it darker. That's good. I'm going to zoom out just to see where the natural shadow would be. With every brush stroke or click, it's adding more shadow. So if it's not dark enough, just continue to brush stroke over that area. Just be careful not to go too dark. Alright, so that's looking pretty good there. So let's see if there's anything more we could do to composition-wise just tie it up. What I'm going to do now is just do an overall picture adjustment, which is going to tie everything together. And this is going to be a different, we're going to use the curves adjustment layer. And I'm going to place that at the top of all of my layers here. This will just allow me to adjust all the colors together. So I'm going to turn this value, which is the black value, this turns, kind of takes out any of the grainy, grayish colors. And then the other side is the white value. That doesn't need to be adjusted very much, just a little tiny bit. And then the mid-tones here, I'm just going to play around with until it looks good. Just bending it down a little bit. And that's before, that's after. Just to add some kind of depth to it. Alright, for this project we're going to call this good. Obviously I could spend a little bit more time on this and create some more patterns or do some more blending, play around with the colors some more, but for now, like, this is like 95% good. So we're going to stop here, and hopefully you've learned some techniques that you can use on your project when you create your own species. So go ahead and follow along these steps. If you got behind or you were absent, you can use this video to get caught up and make sure that you've learned all the skills that you'll need for our next project.